Welcome. So, something interesting happened. Um, After I published those two videos, um, my brother got a text message from a 760 prefix, a guy named Bernie that helped him sort out. Well, I'll just tell you this. Because I don't want to disclose any information about my brother that he doesn't want disclosed. Bernie is apparently a recovery terminal, and that's about all I'll say. My brother is no longer a practicing Scientologist. I know he won't mind me saying that. So, anyways, he sends me a text after these videos. He says, "Oh, what is it? Da, 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 da. He says, at least 5 years since this person talked to me, and I watch your videos and get this." And he got a text message from this 760 area code, which I assume is Florida. Last time I spoke to you, I believe you were on an offshore rig. Still in the oil business? One of the senior consultants here wants to speak with you. When is a good time to call you, and on what number? Would it work to call right now? How about right now? Bernie, Church of Scientology International. So, some int terminal named Bernie is has a okay. Bernie's an int terminal, right? And he's got a senior consultant that wants to talk to my brother after I published these two videos. Now, yesterday was Thursday, so anyone familiar with Scientology practices, especially on staff, will know that Thursdays are your Hail Mary days that you save for your rainy days when your stats are really low. And perhaps Bernie thought he could do some kind of recovery or talk to my brother and get some dirt on me or something. I don't know. I tried calling the number and no answer. So, I mean, I know they have caller ID, but I called anyway. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'm going to continue with the bite model Steve Hassan talks about. We'll get as far as we can get, and then I'll cut it and publish it. So, and I did send I sent an email to Tony Ortega, just letting him know that I was publishing stuff again, and I saw that Leah's getting a second season of her show, and I think that's great. And I also told Tony, if she needs any help, I'm willing to do so, whatever I can contribute. So, information control. Number 1, deception. A, deliberately withhold information. B, distort information to make it more acceptable. C, systematically lie to the cult member. HCO would be the division, I would say, in the SMI level, Scientology Missions International level, that focuses heavily on the deception. It's corrupt at its at the one place that it shouldn't be corrupt is in ethics. So, ethics officers are tasked with a lot. They have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, so to speak, in the Scientology scheme of things. If there's a pre-clear who needs to be rid of someone that's antagonistic to Scientology, it is HCO that handles that problem. And there's only 2 ways to do that in HCO. It's either handle or disconnect. So you either bring this person in to the fold, into Scientology, into the cult, or you disconnect from them. And this is a hard thing for new pre-clears to, understandably so, it's a hard thing for them to get behind. You know, it's just because someone doesn't agree with your religious beliefs, you know, that doesn't mean you should disconnect from them completely. But that is indeed the policy. And HCO is the Hubbard Communications Office is usually, in my experience in Scientology Missions International, that is the arm that does the dirty work. But that being said, the mission holders have a lot of say and sway in the matter too, and so does the executives. So do the executives. There are meetings every day, multiple times a day, about all the different pre-clears, especially if there's a pre-clear there that is particularly wealthy or has some wealth to mine. And so great efforts are put into understanding that person's life and how those people in his life that are antagonistic towards Scientology can either be handled or disconnected from. And one of the ways to do that is use deception. Deliberately withhold information, distort information to make it more acceptable. Systematically lie to the cult member. Now, how would that work in a situation where you're handling a PTS person and trying to identify an SP? Well, for one, you've got all of this information in the PTS SP course materials that are completely asinine, you know. It's a very paranoid, schizophrenic way to look at the world if you read the course materials, and there are parts of it that can be construed from the ethics book itself, and a lot of times the deception will be that itself, is showing them references, showing them materials, having them read in word clear references and materials, to false data strip whatever it is you're trying to replace it with, because false data stripping is really just trying to, you know, really get in there deep and replace someone's ideas with some other ideas, but getting the person to do it themselves. Distort information and deliberately withhold information. I mean, withholding goes hand in hand with ethics, because in ethics you're always being questioned. What are your withholds? You know, I need to know your withholds before we can get anything done, before you can make progress back on the bridge, or before you can do this next auditing action. We need to make sure that, you know, the basics are taken care of, namely your withholds, your overts and withholds. So you're going to be giving them, as a Scientologist, your withholds, some of your deepest, darkest secrets. And HCO or the ethics officer will take that information and put it in your PC folder. Now, deliberately withholding information on the part of the ethics officer, I mean, you could just go down a long list of stuff, because most ethics officers aren't brand new Scientologists. They know about the space opera. They know about Xenu. They know about Xenu. They have heard about it. Most of them, they fear it. They don't want to read the OT materials. I had an idea that once I got to OT3, if I ever got there was going to be some space opera, and it'd be probably something crazy like what I've read. But you're taught that is fraudulent, that what was published is not real, and that it wasn't L. Ron Hubbard stuff, and that, you know, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Just don't. Nope. Because if you do, you're going to be in big ethics trouble, and you might get sick. And then you're going to be in ethics for a long time, because when you get sick, you usually go to ethics. Because usually your sickness is related to some ethics problem. Your PTS you're connected to an SP. Anyways, systematically lie to the cult member, distort information to make it more acceptable. I mean, like I said, if someone came to an EO and wanted to talk about the OT3 materials they read, God forbid, the EO would then systematically lie to the cult member and distort information to make the information more acceptable. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. I mean, it's clear that the church lies. It's clear that the church deliberately withholds information. It's clear that the cult members are systematically lied to. I don't think I'm going to get any arguments there, except from the church itself. All right, so 2, minimize or discourage access to non-cult sources of information, including internet, TV, radio, books, articles, newspapers, magazines, other media. And B, critical information. C, former members. D, keep members busy so they don't have time to think and investigate. E, control through cell phone with texting, calls, internet tracking. Let's see. At the staff house that we had, there was TV, but there was no cable. There's a DVD player and a CD player and a VHS player. But I swear to God, if HCO lived in the house, so if Jim saw something new, like a new tape or a new video, whatever, he would look at it. And I don't remember specifics. I do remember him commenting on some listening or viewing materials that he didn't particularly approve of, but, you know, Jim was kind of like, you know, at home, he when we were at the staff house, he was pretty chill, you know, because he got hammered every day. I mean, not hammered by like getting drunk. He got hammered by the executive staff on a daily basis, and the guy I would say very sick and very tired, sick and tired. Good way to describe Jim. Critical information, you know, there was a big expose going on with Anderson Cooper when I first started on staff. And it was a media blackout. I mean, pretty much church members and staff, you know, we were sort of monitored, make sure, are you going straight home, going to the staff house, you know, you don't want to, like, they kept us inside the mission, doing stuff inside the mission, until all this stuff blew over. And, not a whole lot of Div 6 activity outside the mission, unless it was with a senior, like long time Scientologist that they could trust. There weren't many of those. Trust is a very limited commodity when you're working for the Church of Scientology. Anyways, former members. Now, every now and then, former members would come back. And looking back on it now, I'm not sure whether they were coming back to get back in the fold or just to stir shit up. So, paranoia, you know, like only certain terminals people could handle former members. There was a really cool guy who was a rapper who used to come to the Ventura Mission, and he was in and out, and I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. He'd love me to give him a shout out because he's a rapper, you know. And if you're wondering why I'm doing my nose, I'm in Louisiana and the weather is changing like crazy. I promise I'm not doing cocaine, even though I'm talking a million miles an hour. I'm trying to cover as much as I can in the shortest time possible. I wish I could remember his name. Anyways, I'll think of it later. And when he would come into the mission, only Monica could handle him. None of us were able to really process or get him on lines or anything except for Jim or Monica. And the reason was because he has a lot of reservations and a lot of doubts and a lot of all this stuff. So that kind of stuff can spread like a plague. And you don't want doubt, right? You want everyone all together, save the planet. Keep members busy so they don't have time to think and investigate. Well, as I said in my previous video, I was not a very good Scientologist to a lot of people, which turns out to be a good thing. But at the time, it wasn't good for me. So, yeah, all the time I spent, this goes into what I was saying yesterday or the day before about always being in ethics. Even if you're not in ethics, they don't want to give you a lot of time to think and investigate unless it's Scientology. So what will happen is you get someone who's upstat and they say they want to go to a movie or go do something outside the damn church. They'll be assuaged to spend their time on course, or they'll be if the situation warrants it, they'll even like award them a free course or free course. Ultimately, it'll come out of their freeloader debt if they leave. But that's one way that they can keep members busy. Control through cell phone with texting, calls, internet tracking. Smartphones weren't really a thing when I was working for them. And the Nokias and the I think right before I left, the Razor had come out. So cell phones weren't really monitored per se, but any calls to the mission were. And my biological father called quite a lot, and I found out years later that he had my cousin look up a lot of information about the OT materials, and years later, when I went back to his house, I found a packet of information, huge packet, manila folder type deal, just full of Scientology stuff, all of the stuff that I ended up, reading for myself later. But at that time, I was still in the Scientology think, and I just burned it right there. His whole house had burned down. He was deceased. He was an alcoholic father, and really didn't have a whole lot to do with my upbringing in a positive way. So it's unfortunate that towards the end of his life, what he was trying to do was save me from this cult. And he was definitely smart enough at the time to find the resources. I couldn't honestly say that I would have been able to find the resources. Of course, I was on staff at a Church of Scientology. But he really did his due diligence and found the information. I'm sure he wanted to get that to me. But at a certain point, I was in ethics, and I basically just disconnected from him because he was so antagonistic. But he was very smart in how he would, whenever I did talk to him, he had learned that there were, he had to talk a certain way because he was dealing with a cult, He couldn't say, for instance, damn it, let me talk to my son now, He would have a comm cycle with these people, and then, he would manipulate them to get me on the phone, and eventually they'd relent and let me talk to him. And he would say things like, don't you miss playing, or he would say, we wouldn't say, don't you miss. He would say, well, you've been playing much music lately? Which was, music is a huge part of my life. I would say that, I did used to say that, that was my religion before Scientology. I said that when I was being initially indoctrinated into the church. Like, yeah, this is cool, Scientology works and everything, but music is my first religion. And he would ask me things like, have you had any gigs lately or anything? Just things to sort of, like, very slowly on a gradient get me to understand that I'm not doing what I want to be doing. And unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. And it wasn't coming from the right person, I can tell you that. If it had been coming from my mother or my stepfather, I might have. There's no way to tell. There's no way to tell. But It could have been worse. It could have been better. But I'm not gonna sit here and regret over all this stuff. Just want to provide information for you good folks out there. All right, number 3, compartmentalize information into outsider versus insider doctrines. Ensure that information is not freely accessible. Control information at different levels and missions within the group. Allow only leadership to decide who needs to know what and when. Well, in a lot of cases for the Melrose mission, I was one of the insiders in the executive meetings. Why that is, I couldn't tell you because I was extremely out ethics, but I could make a guess. Like I said in earlier videos, I had experience in stage management and working with celebrities, so I don't think they had the full faith and confidence in some of the other staff members to handle celebrities with the professionalism that I could. So there were certain key members of the public that were involved in the fundraising for the Melrose mission, and in I don't know if I'd say a majority, but I'd say probably, because there were times where I wasn't involved in conversations because of my ethics behavior, but I'd say a good 60% of the time I would be the one involved in dealing with some of the celebrity contacts in one way or another. So insider versus outsider. Yeah, I mean, when you're pitching someone Scientology, and you're a staff member, and even if you're not a staff member, but I find it very hard to enforce KSW on public Scientologists. They just don't do it. They're not hardcore enough. Sorry, if you were a public. Actually, you're quite lucky. But the information that could help you in your life can only be obtained through Scientology. I mean, boom, there you go, done. KSW. Knowing the technology is correct, knowing that you have the correct technology. This is all KSW shit, right? Other cults probably have similar types of doctrines that sort of lay it all out. Insider versus outsider. What do we know that no one else knows? And then ensure that the individual behavior is monitored by the group. I mean, that's staff housing. I don't know anyone who wasn't in staff housing that was on staff. So sometimes it'd be split up into 2 different staff houses, but a staff living by themselves, that's like, I don't even know how you could afford that unless you were just independently wealthy. And I never met an independently wealthy staff Scientologist other than like mission holders. Kathy and Tom Steiner seemed to be made of money. Tom had 3 liver transplants in a matter of 5 years. I mean, livers aren't cheap, and he might have a good medical plan, but I'm telling you, still, even if you got a good insurance policy, 3 livers, man, that's going to set you back, I would say, at least $1 million. So, and that's not to mention all of the missions that they had. They had 5 missions that I think that I know of. Ireland, 1 in Germany, 1 in Baton Rouge, 1 in Ventura, and the Melrose mission made the 5th. All right. And as far as ensuring the behavior is monitored, Tom and Kathy, if they were in town and they saw some sort of out point, and they're OT, and they totally try to act all OT and shit, like they could read your mind, then yeah, they would assign you a twin, or they would, have someone keep an eye on you, or they'd just throw your ass in ethics. Simple as that. You're going to ethics. You're out ethics. You need to get your anchor points in, or your anchor points are shoved in your hip, whatever. 5. Nope, we're at 4. Encourage spying on other members. Impose a buddy system to monitor and control a member. Report deviant thoughts, feelings, and actions to leadership. Ensure that individual behavior is monitored by group. Right. Okay. I pretty much covered all that. Extensive use of cult-generated information and propaganda, including newsletters, magazines, journals, audio tapes, videotapes, YouTube, movies, and other media. Misquoting statements or using them out of context from non-cult sources. The whole Anderson Cooper thing, there were several articles in Freedom Mag that ran, and those were the things that sort of ended the lockdown, I guess. The sort of like turtle up strategy. Once they were able to find and manipulate and like take stuff out of context with the Anderson Cooper story, they did so, and that was a big story. It was like, hey, have you read the new Freedom Mag? Boom, 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 hand them to everybody. And then you sort of solidify this idea, propaganda that contributes to your narrative and your dialogue as a Scientologist. One thing I'd like to comment on is that when I was in Los Angeles or California, Ventura, the events that would occur, I can't say I ever got into real ethics trouble over this, because, and this is one of the really telling things, because every event that I went to afterwards, almost every event, I would comment on the statistics that they were posting. I'd be like, well, don't those statistics look a little like, I mean, how can something go straight up all the time? Like, and I was calling bullshit on it, and I did that in front of some of the executive staff, the ED of Ventura, the ED of Melrose, the HGC terminals, auditors. I would mention this stuff, and they just be so, what they call it, keyed out. I'm so keyed out. Oh my God, I'm like so keyed out right now. What that means is that they are experiencing like a reverie. It's kind of, if you wanted to compare it to another religion, think of it as feeling the Holy Ghost. They're feeling the Holy Ghost. I'm so keyed out. Oh my God. And so whenever that, after these events, these people be all keyed out, and I'd go like, piss on their Cheerios and be like, really, I mean, I'm all for Scientology and everything, but that's bullshit. That's pretty much what it communicated to these terminals, and I didn't get in trouble for that, and that's what's telling, because if I didn't get in trouble for it, they didn't report me. They must have somewhere known it was true. My thoughts, anyways. All right, we're at the end here. Unethical use of confession. Unethical use of confession. This is one of the most diabolical things in Scientology, or any religion. Priest-penitent confession is a very sacred thing. That's really what it boils down to. It's a sacred thing. Now, if you've committed a crime, I've asked a priest this. This is in 2016. I went to a Catholic priest. I was raised Catholic, um, and they had a really great uh, priest here in the diocese. Very old priest. Um, and when I refer to priests, I admired them for their theological insight. I'm not necessarily interested in the religious beliefs per se, but I do appreciate theological input from whatever source, whether it's Scientology, which has none, but at a certain point in my life, I believe that it had everything. But whether it's Catholicism, baptism, Episcopalians, Lutherans, whatever, there's a theology there, or there's theological principles there, and I don't mind bouncing my ideas off of multiple theological, ideals to see what I get back, and I can sort of sort out whatever. But this priest, I asked him. I said, "Well, what if someone confessed a murder to you? Would you report it to the police?" And this is an old priest. This is not a young priest. He was ordained in '64. And he said, "No. I mean, I can't. I would urge the individual to turn himself in. I would, if I knew where he lived, I would be knocking on his door every day and pretty much nagging at him to do what's right and turn himself in. But I couldn't call the police and inform them that this man confessed a murder to me." And I found that extremely powerful. And while I think it's kind of messed up that if someone tells you they killed somebody, I don't know if I could hold on to that secret. But there are smaller secrets too. But I wanted to give him the best, like, big blow up example. Like, if someone said that they killed somebody, what would you do? And that was the answer that he gave when I was a Catholic priest. And in Scientology, your interviews are all extensively notated. You get massive folders full of session information if you've been in session, and the moment you decide to leave, I mean, you're pretty much even though they've said that it's priest penitent, and they clearly don't honor that. And what's even worse is that in Scientology auditing, a lot of times you're covering past life stuff. So what they can do is, if they get you to admit that you murdered somebody or raped somebody or were raped or were a drug addict or sold drugs or anything from a past life even, then there's no disclaimer there. They'll publish it and say, well, this guy is a freaking rapist. Of course he's going to say that Scientology is evil. I'm in a unique position, I think, and I challenge a Scientologist out there who wants to get some dirt on me or fuck me up and fair game me, to go ahead and find my folders. Good luck, because the last time I got a piece of mail here, it was addressed to some other person, and I won't say who, but you got a mole, and hey, good luck finding my folders intact in one place with all the information that you want to blackmail me, because I don't think it's there. Sorry. Manipulation of memory, possible false memories. Again, false memories, past lives, anything that's in my PC folder that is, quote, I don't know what to quote. Anything in my PC folder that would be used against me to sort of defame me, I can guarantee you that it's well, there are some things that are true that I'm not proud of, but as far as like these extreme things, anything that was extreme, like me blowing up planets or inhabiting a robot body to monitor different planets and different solar systems, and then flying down and raping their women or murdering entire civilizations, or hurting children, all this stuff comes from my whole track. Yeah. And to me, that's where they get a lot of people, their whole track, because it doesn't state. No one's going to understand a judge or a potential, not a potential, just a public person, just a regular non-Scientologist. If they read something that says, well, this guy said in session that he distributed drugs to children. Well, that may have been in a past life. More than likely it was. More than likely it was. Withholding forgiveness or absolution. And an auditor's job is not to forgive. That's not their job. Their job is to be there and listen. Be there comfortably and listen. Basically to keep your TRs in and acknowledge the pre-clear. You want to give acknowledgments. And the pre-clear themselves forgives themselves or works something out or makes some kind of new connection. And so the forgiveness or absolution part is not there. In fact, at the end of a session, usually your post-session interview or whatever, where they make sure your needle's floating, instead what they'll do is they'll ask you, have you benefited from your Scientology processing? Would you like someone else to receive the same benefits? Do you know, you fucking want to get the name of the person right then and there if you give it to them. So anyways, that is a quick rundown of or from my perspective, what Steve Hassan defined as the BITE model, information control, the second letter in the BITE model, information control. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot I could talk about still in that section, but I don't want to have a 5-hour video. Just wanted to keep the momentum going. 2 years ago when I started this, I felt like I had some good momentum, and then the divorce happened. So it was in my best interest and in my children's best interest and my ex-wife's best interest that I just kind of put that on the back burner for a little while. So I hope you guys understand that, and things are much better now, and yeah, I'm happy to be talking again. See you on the next video, which will be thought control, Steve Hassan's BITE model.